This kind of gives you another great layout of the hill. So up on the right, you have where we were before, which is the Natasha block, the south section, and then up above that is the north section. The Natasha block is the largest block on the hill. It's about 6.5 acres. But as you see, you got the north section, which is sitting around 650 feet, and then you've got the lower section, the south section, which goes between 650 and 600, and then you've got this west section, which is a little less southeast facing and more west facing, and that gives you a whole different perspective. Even though the soils are very similar, the weather or the microclimate that section is in is very different, and so when we harvest, we keep these sections separately. In fact, we're using the north section for the rosé, south section for the Natasha block, and then part of what I pick out of this block, the west block, goes into the Bailey block, Bailey Pinot Noir. So we keep them separate because they do have distinctly different characteristics throughout. You'll see to the left, the youngest block on the second longest block now on the hill, the Bailey block, where all the red clover is growing. We did plant more red clover in that block because that block was a little bit more stressed for nitrogen deficiency, and so we wanted to augment that a little bit more. So you see that we have different stands of red clover in different spots because of how we planted it. The Bailey block was planted in 2008. It's also on a Dijon clone. It's all 777, and again, it's about 2.5 acres. And then you go up to the top block there, which goes up to 800 feet. That is the Jordan block. Natasha, I should remind you, is my oldest daughter, Natasha, and the Jordan block up there is my middle daughter, Jordan. And again, the Jordan block, same age vines as the Natasha, but obviously higher up and on different soil. And we'll talk about that when we go up there.
Do you have to do anything different with this west-facing slope as far as taking care of the vines? Is there anything you have to watch for? Do you have to watch more for mold or anything else that could happen to the grape?
The one thing we do have to watch is as you go north on this section, up about 50 yards from the end, the vines are much more vigorous in their growing. So we have to manage that canopy more because if it gets too dense, then you don't get the airflow and you can have susceptibility to powdery mildew. And that doesn't get quite as much of the wind as most of the rest of the hill does, blowing up from the Van Duzer. And so the combination of those two things, we have to watch and manage that section more aggressively for the canopy. Yeah, we're non-irrigated. So again, part of our whole practice in farming is to be in balance with nature, and farm what nature gives us. And with my experience in Burgundy, where nothing is irrigated, it gives you what you get for that current vintage. If you irrigate, you have less variability in terms of vintage to vintage because you're giving the vines the same water every year. There'll be temperature differences, but not in terms of water. With the irrigation not being here, those vines have to work harder some years than others, have to go deeper for water some years than others, and it adds to the variability from vintage to vintage.